Everybody is seems to be up in arms about Jalen Duren, his playing time or the lack thereof. It's like it's only like 4 minutes less since James Wiseman has gotten here, but people are kind of wondering what's going on. Now, I know Casey talked about that big man rotation, the front court, and what they're trying to do before the end of the season. So there might be a little bit of method to the madness. It's not a situation where Duren is the odd player out or a bench player. I don't think that this is a Sadiq Bey of things where they started moving him around or Killian Hayes. I think it's a little bit more to it, but we're gonna get into it. We're gonna definitely open it up though with this Jaden Ivey, Jalen Duren continual disrespect or whatever we want to call it. Let me get this thing started. But what up though, people? It is your boy Brandon Dent, aka Detroit Kool-Aid, on this Wednesday morning. Listen, the weather is getting warmer out there. I love that personally because I got an electric vehicle. That means my battery is lasting a little bit longer. Bro, like seriously, like I got like an extra 100 miles range on there. So I'm like, I'm excited right now. The winter crushed us. I did not expect that when I went into the purchase, but sheesh. Here I am. I'm happy. We got a new Jeff today. Mr. Everything is sitting in the chair today. The book bag, the trusty book bag. Y'all see me out there on the concourse with it. But Mr. Everything on the Morning Woodward show already. So definitely when we do this content later, tap in, tell them what's up. We gotta get this drum roll going first for the legend. Hey yo! Shout out to the legend Detroit News Rod Beard, brother. How you doing? And any comment on my joy for the electric vehicle, the range going a little bit longer now. I'm excited, man.
I mean, you buried the lead. In journalism, they teach you to put the most important stuff up top. We've been talking about gas versus electric grills for a
Let's
year and a
go.
half, 2 years, and now we're doing gas versus electric car, and you go electric on that. I mean, let me know. Let me know. Are we doing lawnmowers the same way? Are we doing electric those too? Let me a snow. I mean, I'm
I do
electric.
have an electric lawnmower.
I, th- that-
It's orange too, man. One of those Black and Decker ones. It's pretty dope. It's pretty
it's
dope.
I'm battery operated on the snowblower and the lawnmower, and the car is next. I'm right there with you. What'd you get? What kind of electric did you get?
Chevy Bolt, man. Chevy Bolt.
Yep,
I didn't
yep.
want to start. I didn't want to start too big. I was like, you know what? This kind of fit the budget right now to kind of get it as
Hmm.
like a second car. And honestly, I've loved it. I've loved the experience. The charging at first, it was like, yo, I don't know where we're gonna go, the range anxiety and all of that. But once you kind of get the hang of it, and with everybody seeming to put chargers up everywhere, home chargers are exploding. It was like, hey, you know what? It's doable. And the cars are fun, bro. It's like instant transmission. I got in this car and I had somebody get in with me, and they were like, "Oh, it looks small from the outside, but this thing has actually got some space." I was like, "Nah, man, wait till we hit the gas pedal. That thing is like a little rocket ship." So it's pretty dope. Fun experience. Fun experience. Yeah, man. My wife hates it.
She'll get used to it. She'll get used to it.
I love it, man. I love it. But look, I'm trying to figure out if people understand, with this Pistons rebuild, that it can go very, very similarly. I believe that this rebuild is primed to literally go, it's not looking like much right now. It can look kind of small from the outside, but I really believe Troy Weaver has this thing primed to when he pushes his foot on the pedal, this thing to just go. And we've talked about it, since we started the pod, is that the way this thing is set up, really, is
Hmm.
for this to get going in years 4, 5. That's when we will be able to see not, are they learning to compete, but a semblance of a winning roster, whether the wins or, whether they're fifth, fourth, third in the playoffs, or whether they're just getting into 6th seed. We all knew that this was kind of something we were going to be looking at next year and down the road and whatnot. And, man, oh man, oh man. I'm looking here. I want to start here though, before we get into kind of this Troy Weaver rebuild of things. But it's got people kind of just up in arms with the way the season is going. And one thing that I think is going to affect us the most, and we talked about it, is team wins as it relates to our
Hmm.
rookies, the type of viewership that they get. And I was sent this week. Somebody tagged me in it, and they were like, "Y'all have to talk about this on the show." And I was like, "Man, I don't know how Rod's going to take this." But
You know how I'm going to take it.
Sam Quinn,
Who?
CBS.
Who? 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 Sam Quinn. Okay. All right. Continue. long as we got
Listen,
that out the way. Who?
listen.
Who?
Sam Quinn of CBS. He released his first team all rookie list. All right. Listen, we just went over this last week. At least NBA.com understood. Whoever did their list understood. Jaden Ivey has been hooping. No matter what you think of him, you got to have him at least in the top 5. Bro, I was shocked to look here and see no Pistons in his first team all rookies list. And it seemed very sure. Like, yeah, this is just what it is. So his first team all rookie list, he says it seems pretty straightforward, doesn't it? Paolo Banchero, Jalen Williams, Walker Kessler, some of the hot flavors, some of the hot names that we hear kind of on the back half of the season. I was told it was how you start. That's what I was told. But Keegan Murray and everyone's darling Ben Mathurin. That's the first team all rookie list from Quinn. Rod, are you moving? Are you
so the second team is going to be a little bit more inclusive. Go ahead. Tell me the second team.
Jaden Ivey. So he puts him 6. And I'm like, okay, if you want to ding him for lack of wins, I still think he's a first team all rookie, but whatever. Jabari Smith. That's my guy, so I'm not going to complain about that one. Jeremy, was it Sohan? Sohan?
Yep.
And Tari Eason. And he says that 10th spot is all I'm really struggling with.
No, you're struggling with all 10, bro.
Look, y'all, Rock was like, I'm gonna hold it. Just get to it, and then I'm gonna let you know what I feel about this.
Where to even begin on this? Tell me, okay. Maybe I'm the idiot because I'm not watching as much league-wide basketball as I did previously. Maybe let's go with that. Maybe I'm the idiot. But Keegan Murray on the first team? For real? What?
I was ready to accept Ben Mathurin. I'm like, I am. I've accepted that in my soul, Rod. I know that that's going to happen. First team all rookie. I know he's going to be there, irregardless of Jaden Ivey. Keegan Murray, though, bro. We went through all the Rod. We've dissected the numbers a billion different ways. The last 10s, the last 20s, the last 40s, the whole season, Rod. What in the world are people looking at? Is it really the fact that the Pistons are just doing that bad? Because every time you look up, you're not really finding like, oh, Jaden Ivey had a horrible stretch. You know what I mean? Oh, Jaden Ivey has been in a slump. You continue to see every time I look up, I look at his season numbers, and I was like, no, I thought Jaden Ivey was shooting better than 33.5% on the season. But when you go to like his last 40, you realize he's shooting like 36% over the last 40 games of the season. And if that keeps up for the second half of the season, or for almost 2/3 of the season, this is going to be what Jaden Ivey was doing. So I don't even understand. Like, I look at some of these names on there, and I'm like, yo, some of these guys are some hoopers. I can't even hate. Like, you're right. When we zoom in, when I actually start to look at it, when I go back and I look at the highlights, and I'm like, man, let me go back and try and find some of these games. Walker Kessler and what he's doing, it's impressive. Jalen Williams and what he's doing with OKC, and the fact that that team has some life, some serious life, those things are impressive. And it's like as not just somebody who likes basketball, someone who played basketball, but somebody who's actively trying to cover the game and not try to wind up like the Quinn Smiths of the world. Yeah, sometimes you gotta tune into these guys that are at the top of these lists. And so it's like, okay, there's some serious and legitimate arguments. Keegan Murray, though, bro.
Nope, I figured it out.
No, Jalen Duren.
We're all good. I figured it out. Look at what his tweet is in response to. Mike Brown saying that if Keegan Murray breaks the all-time rookie 3-point record and he's not first team All-NBA with their team's record, and that was the first thing I was going to say, is he's basing that on Sacramento's record, and they've greatly improved. Does Keegan Murray contribute to that in a way that makes him inseparable from Rookie of the Year? So if you're saying Keegan Murray, then you really are saying he contributes to winning that much, that he makes Sacramento that much better because his numbers don't compare favorably to Jaden Ivey's. That has to be the only way that you're saying that. And yes, Keegan Murray shooting 41% from three. Absolutely. Love it. But what are we judging? Are we judging numbers? Are we judging performance in the eye test? Are we judging expectations? And that's always been my thing is what were you expected to do? When I did player grades at midseason or at the end of a season, it was always, I'm not going to do it just based off your numbers and say you average 15 points, so you get a B. It is what were you expected to do? Jaden
Yeah.
Ivey wasn't expected to average 5 assists a game. He wasn't expected to average 16 points a game. Albeit Cade Cunningham wasn't expected to be out for most of the season, but that is what it is. So where are you dinging Jaden Ivey to say that he's not? I don't know, man. I don't know.
Look,
Everybody
listen.
everybody
To
has
take
their thing.
another to take another guy in the media who I actually I respect him a lot. I look up to what he's trying to do and what he has brought to basketball. That's Keith Smith, NBA, and
Mhm.
he's been a fan of Jaden Ivey's. Just a complete and consistent fan. I just kind of go and I look at people's trends, and from the beginning of him being drafted till now, he's continued to say, "People, he's a monster. People, Jaden Ivey's really good." But one thing we talked about, give Jaden Ivey just a little bit of space. Don't give him no space. He could just dribble past you. Keith Smith, I didn't even realize he's been saying that for a very long time. And he was
Mhm.
talking about it, I believe in a game between the Pistons and the Celtics. I wish I knew which game he was talking about. And he just said, yo, they gave him just that much space and he just went right around and dunked it. And it's just
Mhm.
like, when you get some of these guys like Keith Smith, who he's zoomed into everything. He's one of those guys that literally is watching all basketball at once. He's like the he's like the architect in the Matrix, bro, with all those TVs going at once.
Mhm.
Just keeping an eye on everything. And so I respect his opinion. And the way that he talks about Jaden Ivey, he talks glowingly about Jalen Duren, which a lot of fans, a lot of Piston fans, I've heard them state they believe Jalen Duren, though they believe in Jaden Ivey and where he's going to get, they believe Jalen Duren is actually going to become a better player. Keith Smith, the way I see him tweet, it's almost as if he believes Jaden Ivey is going to become one of those next best and greatest players. And one of the things he actually talked about was his mid range. His just how consistent he's gotten there. And I've seen other people talk about it too. I know early in the season we were wondering, is that something he can add? Not should he do it, but for Dwayne Wade, that mid range kind of completed his ability to not just score in all three areas, but keep people off balanced on all three areas of scoring. 3-point, mid range, and then it set up his ability to be able to get in and honestly dunk on people's heads that much more easy. But with Jaden Ivey and Jalen Duren, it's interesting to see the guys that are kind of zoomed in and pictured in. They're like, you know what, these guys are going to be good guys. Whether they deserve to make it onto these first teams or second teams, that's a little bit different today because you're right. Somewhere along the line, the metric or the philosophy for selecting these teams has been superimposed with is the team winning? Is the team winning? Is the team winning? And it's going to hurt the Pistons every year that they're not creeping up there. But like I said before, I think that this is creating, so to speak, a chip on their shoulders, Rod, for these young guys to go out there and say, you know what? People aren't believing in us, but we know how hard we're working. People aren't believing in us, but we know how hard we're going. We know that this team right now, the wins and losses are more, I believe, a product of the roster construction. And I wanted to get your take on this as well. I
Mhm.
believe it's more a product of roster construction and the injuries than anything that the players who are playing are doing or not doing. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah, I mean, but it's if anybody's trying, and I've said this for the past like 2 or 3 pods, if you're trying to take anything overarching from the remainder of this season, stop. Just stop. Because
Mm-hmm.
there's nothing you're gonna take from this and say, um, this is what type of player. You can take it as a sampler. This is the little poo-poo platter of kind of appetizers you can look at and say, maybe there's something here that James Wiseman can bring next year. Maybe this Jaden Ivey stuff is going to translate because guys are in different roles than they typically would be. And when you put Cade back, when you put um, when you put Vic on his team. When you put Vic on his team, then role than they are right now. So you can't
Mhm.
just say season is what these guys are. And that it's about the record sort of his numbers are not sort of the same as Jalen Duren's, but you've got Walker Kessler who's averaging 9.1 and 8.3, and the blocks are there too, obviously. But
Yeah.
Jalen Duren is 8.9 and 8.7. So is Sohan that much better than Jalen Duren? And if he's going to say that 10th spot is kind of up for grabs, why don't you say that Jalen Duren is right there because those numbers suggested it? And if you've watched enough games, and that's the only other thing that I can think of is if you're going to say Jaden Ivey's played only 67 games in comparison to the others, then well, Paolo's only played 69, but Paolo's a shoe, and that doesn't matter. But
Yeah.
Jalen Duren's only played 60. So if that's what you're going to ding them on, okay, cool. But everybody has their own flavor. You said it earlier.
Yeah.
There are certain people that you respect, and you look at their opinion, and that carries a little bit more weight than something else. I don't know Sam Quinn personally. Obviously, I disagree with what he's trying to put across here.
Right.
But what I said to you before always holds true that for media members and when you're voting on these things, everybody has their own system. For some people, their system is going to be, hey, I got something else to do. I'm at the airport. Let me finish out this
Who's at the
ballot before
top
I
of
jump
these
on this.
standings? Yeah.
Yeah, just so I before I jump on this plane, let me finish these awards and go on and do what I got to do. And some people legitimately put in a ton of time and effort into it. So I don't know where Sam Quinn stands on that, but to say that Jaden Ivey is not first team again, why are they saying it? Who's saying it?
Who's saying it?
And
Consider
why
the
would they
sources.
be saying it? So if you're going to quote tweet Mike Brown saying Keegan Murray should be on the first team and Keegan Murray's on your first team, maybe you have an agenda. Maybe. I don't know. I don't know.
Maybe. You know what? I'm gonna start my agenda too then. I'm gonna start quote tweeting everything and saying, hey, you know what? Jaden Ivey deserves to be on the first team.
That,
That's
that,
what we gotta do, man. We gotta start the agenda. But you said something really important in your statement there. And it was as it relates to what the Pistons are trying to do as the season winds down. Like they're looking at different things right now. You know, they're trying to put players in different positions right now. They're trying to give James Wiseman opportunities. And this kind of goes into like our next topic. You know, a lot of people were concerned about the lack of, starting the reduction of time with Jalen Duren as James Wiseman is coming. But we said it before this kind of switch started kind of going on when James Wiseman got here. I told you like it may be unpopular, but one of the things I want to see is the Pistons kind of lighten the load on Ivy and Duren. I wouldn't mind seeing these guys even taking a game off here or there, or realistically having their minutes reduced because we know what they are. I believe
Mhm.
that any other like progression that Jalen Duren is going to go through offensively or defensively, offensively, really, I believe that's going to come in the offseason. I believe defensively, you can make more strides, but offensively, when you're talking about working on pet moves, working in the post, getting comfortable, it's a little bit more difficult to work on that in games. So the level of development we needed to see him pass that big man triage. In case he spoke about that, he was like, "Look, Duren has done what we've asked him to do, and he's kind of exceeded, and he's shown that he can be depended on to be out there to rebound, to play hard, to do defense, this and the other, and that's what we wanted out of him, and he did that." And he said that we're trying to figure out, and this is verbatim. This isn't verbatim, but this was as it relates to the press conference the other night. He stated we're trying to figure out the big man rotation, the front row court rotation. And they got a lot of players right now that we would consider in previous years, these guys are penciled in to be starters. In previous years, Isaiah Stewart is penciled in to be a starter on previous regimes. This
Mhm.
one, Troy Weaver just said, hey, I want to hold like Marvin Bagley, Isaiah Stewart, Duren, and James Wiseman just to make things difficult or to give ourselves that much more talent and assets to choose from, not just for who's going to be playing, but potentially if they decide to trade somebody like Sadiq Bey. They featured him. They were able to trade him. They featured Jeremy Grant. They were able to trade him for the benefit of the team. And we always said that they'll keep these assets if not. With James Wiseman, the word of the day was opportunity. It wasn't
Yeah.
even bust. Even you were like, whoa, bro, there may still be some meat on the bones there. Like, he's not a bust. He just needs the opportunity. And so if you know what Jalen Duren has, and this was just my thinking, I believe that the Pistons are trying to give James Wiseman every opportunity to prove himself so he can be the best asset he can be to himself, to the league, and to the Pistons, no matter which way this things go. So if the Pistons decide James Wiseman is the guy that we're going to keep, no matter how they decide to do these lineups next year, they got to know who he is first.
Yeah, that's all it says.
You know,
That's
so
all it
I don't
says.
know, man. I wanted your take on at least what you're seeing. I know that at least I think that's kind of cut and dry. Like they're trying to figure out what they have in James Wiseman. You got to give him time. You have to give him opportunities. You got to put him in certain situations. But as it relates to this rotation, I think that's more of the juicy thing there. What are you seeing? Because most fans are clamoring for Jalen Duren and James Wiseman to play together. Whereas and that's why I wanted to talk about it. Remember when the trade first went down, that was something I was like, I wonder, can they do it? And I still don't know. And I was wondering, is it something worth even exploring? With as it relates to this front court rotation, how are you seeing it? There's Stewart, there's Bags, there's Duren, there's Wiseman.
I think you just got to cycle through them, and you just got to see what kind of works. And we saw this coming so long ago when Stewart kind of moved to the 4. Is like he's not going to be a long-term solution at the 5. He can play 5 if you need him to because he's strong enough, but he's just not tall enough. So can he be? I guess the NBA equivalent that you're kind of looking for is Bam Adebayo. Is you want a guy who's that big and athletic and can kind of switch between and be a perimeter guy. And Stu is probably closer to that than anybody. With and maybe Bags is right there with them, but you want to see that constant development, and you want to see a summer to work on stuff for Wiseman under this coaching regime, is to see what that summer looks like and what that production looks like. And again, you don't know what any of this looks like. When you get Vic next year, then all of this kind of looks different. All of this kind of looks different.
Rod. Say that one more time.
You got to manifest.
When do we get Vic next year?
When you get Vic in a couple months, then this whole thing looks so much different. So again, it's not. Don't talk to me about anything with the Pistons right now. Let's talk after the draft, after they get Vic, and then we can start to see where all of these pieces settle in. But anything in these last, 8 games, 7 games, don't talk to me about they did this. This looks bad. This looks whatever. Come on, what are we doing? What are we really doing?
Exactly.
This is Pistons Twitter. This is just how it is.
It is, and it's interesting because as soon as the draft time gets here, and now we're all forced to play in that season, which is all right. What assets do we have? What draft picks do we have? What capital do we have? Everyone's going to be sitting here with that same hope refilled, and that's what I'm saying. The offseason is legitimate Kool-Aid. It's not a farce. It's legitimate Kool-Aid. Now, if Troy Weaver decides on the way over to port, he drops the bowl, then yeah, we're going to be sitting here talking something a little bit different. But Rod, have you seen him mess up like badly? Have you seen him say, you know what, I spilled this, I can't clean this up? Like, that's my thing. We're coming into a summer now where they have the opportunity to just kick the tires. Not on, bro, we've been like, yo, take flyers on people like this guy or that guy. Man, he went out there and got a former number 2 overall pick again. The last time this happened, it turned into a pretty nice asset in Marvin Bagley. He's going into an offseason where it's not just the draft pick we have. We know this with Troy Weaver. We know this. James Wiseman. What if James Wiseman proves I am more than just a backup center? He might be, or a backup power forward. He might be on pace for that for the Pistons. Maybe they like Duren and Stewart starting because the numbers suggest, when those two start, the Pistons play a little bit nastier. And I'm gonna get those numbers for next week's pod. I was talking with somebody who was like, "Yo, Duren and Stewart, they put up some stats, when they were together." I like that rotation, but what if it increases James Wiseman's, what if it increases what he is to the team and what he is in trade value? If he proves I can be a legitimate starter in the NBA. The Pistons know they're not trading Jalen Duren. They know he's not going anywhere. So what if the league right now is looking like, oh snap. Ain't that what they did with Jeremy Grant? He just turned down 4 years, 112 He just turned down $8 million a year raise because he knows he's about to get at least 30. At
Yeah,
least, man.
but
So
that's where we're at, and there's you can't even talk about anything until the draft is over.
mhm,
And really free agency too. There's really nothing that we can do to say, here's what this team is. You don't know what Wiseman is with Cade at all. And so everything is
oh,
just sort of a let's wait and see, and let's have a conversation at that point. Everything that they're doing now is just kind of player development and improvement. Let me see what your skill set, well, how you behave in these sort of situations. So it's not like summer league, but it's kind of like summer league. Is let me see these little spurts of this. Let me see you in the game situation. It's the wins are not as important as having a true assessment and knowing what things people can work on in the off season.
that's the quote right there. That's the
But
clip.
that's it. That's it. To try to take anything else from the last 6 or 7 games or whatever it is asinine. And again, there's a difference between the number 1 and the number 5 pick. And they're what, 2 games ahead of Houston, game and a half ahead of Houston, something like that. So they're not uh I wouldn't say they're in a rush to win a
Right.
couple of games to try to prove a point so they can pull their jerseys out and say, "Yeah, we did this." No,
Yeah,
it's
look at us. Hey, this momentum will carry over till next year. It's like that stuff just doesn't work.
that's yeah, that's not it.
That's not how it goes. And it's I'm glad that the season has kind of gone the way it is because you want these things revealed. You know what I mean? Like, I don't want to go into next season and we don't know what Killian Hayes is. You don't want to go into next season and you don't know if Sadiq Bey can necessarily fit or mesh or anything of that nature. But one thing that you said that's very important, and I don't think people understand when you talk about Cade Cunningham, it's about the way defenses play him. We don't have one guy on the roster right now who got defended the way Cade Cunningham got defended. Because you're right. Who is James Wiseman with Cade Cunningham? That's different because Marvin Bagley looked like a brand new man, yo. It was just wide open lob after wide open lob. And you talking about James Wiseman, who's shown to be, I don't know if he's more athletic, but his measurables seem to make him a person that he just seems to get even more lobs. He just, when you throw it up there, it just seems easy for him. I these athletic, rangy, versatile big men, like we went from none literally before Marvin Bagley and Trey Lyles. Shout out to the
To
OG Trey Lyles, to having multiple bigs who I believe are going to be not necessarily like these coveted guys, but you tell me, man, when you get into I was looking at some of these prospects, and we're gonna get started on that soon in about a couple weeks. When you look at picks 9, 10, you want James Wiseman, 11, 12, 15. You see what I'm saying? When you
mhm.
miss out on that prospect that you know you need, is James Wiseman, is Marvin Bagley, are these guys looking a little bit more attractive than potentially that pick? Because Troy Weaver has been able to finesse some teams like that over the last few years.
Yep, yep. That's exactly it. Again, talk to me after the draft. Definitely talk to me after the season, but talk to me after the draft and talk to me after free agency when we have an idea of what this roster can look like. And so
Yep. They just last year.
this Killian stuff is kind of based on how much is he kind of worth in a new contract.
Mhm.
And for a lot of these guys, let's right size the books, get all of this stuff right, and then we'll figure out the rest of that stuff. So talk to me
Yeah.
after, really, let's talk after free agency if we're talking anything long term and long range, because I have no idea at this point. No, Troy
Yeah.
doesn't have an idea at this point. But somewhere down the line, when some of this stuff starts to shake out, then you'll have a much better sense of what's going on.
Yep. And it's going to shake out very, very quickly. And I think succinctly, just based on what they have, and
Hmm.
based on the personnel, based on the people there, they got smart basketball minds there. When you just kind of take a look at their basketball room, it's not a bunch of guys who think they're the smartest in the room. It's a bunch of guys who, throughout their careers, they've worked for players. They've worked for player empowerment. They've worked to make sure players can get opportunities.
Hmm.
That's who Arm Tellem has been. That's who Troy Weaver has been. That's who I don't know why it's slipping my mind. Who handed over the reins to Troy Weaver, man?
Stefanski.
Stefanski.
Yep.
These guys have been that. all of these guys. They've been like basketball savants. They've been in the room. They kind of understand the temperament of the players. And Casey talked about it too, and Troy Weaver talked about it as well. He said, we are in the business of picking good people. Look, we're doing our assessments on who these guys are as players, but we can guarantee you that we are picking good people. And you're going to like these guys representing your team. And I like that approach, especially when you have guys who are on the scene. But with Killian Hayes, and
Mhm.
and I think that this will end today. Killian Hayes, Dwane Casey, those are probably everybody's two biggest. When you hear them as a Pistons fan, or if you take any perusal on the Pistons Twitter, that's probably where you're seeing the most angst. The most disagreements. I think Killian Hayes ultimately, I don't know if he acquitted himself based on his own expectations, but I believe we know who he is. And I don't think that that's a bad player. I believe that Killian Hayes has shown that he can start if necessary on a winning team. I don't know if he's necessarily going to be a starter. There's still development for him to be had. But I don't believe that he's a player where everyone's like, he's a bum, get him out of here, ship him out of town. Man, 10-6 off the bench. That's
Yeah.
not bad. That is not bad. Probably one of your best, probably your second best playmaker on the squad behind Cade Cunningham. That's not bad. That is not bad, especially if coming off the bench. And you stated it before, if the price is right. And with Dwane Casey, if you have any comment on either one, definitely let me know. Troy Weaver has been adamant about this. I don't know which way to look at it. I do believe that sometimes a fresh voice can help, but that's when the voice that's being spoken isn't able to resonate with what you want to have happening right now. Right now, Troy Weaver is saying Casey is doing exactly as I asked him to do. I can't judge him right now because if we're going to judge anything, it's my fault. The roster isn't one in which you can win with. Casey was brought here to win now. And then we changed it into, can you just develop these assets, make sure that we can get some high draft picks, and make sure these players are people that we can either depend on or trade. And so a lot of people out there are hoping or wishing or wondering what's going to happen with these guys. And honestly, Rod, this is my assessment. I'm not saying that they should or shouldn't be. I'm saying I'm not going to be surprised if I see Dwane Casey and Killian Hayes back next year playing pivotal roles in pivotal situations for this team. I wouldn't be shocked. I just want to be able to get your 2 cents on it before we wrapped up.
No, that's it. You already hit it. There's nothing else to say. I think both of those guys are back next year. I don't think there's any question about Casey and Killian. Same sort of way. I mean, who are you getting? And that's always been my point. Who are you getting? And why are you starting over with a young squad? And that's dangerous to do, especially with a young squad. So I
Mm-hmm.
mean, yeah, people can get on here and
Yeah.
and do all of the talk they want, but yeah,
And because they talk about, well, Boston did this and this team did that. And I'm like, bro, those teams are further ahead in their rebuilds. Even Philly, these teams were further ahead. They were teams that showed they should be winning now, but they're not. The general manager is coming out and saying we should not be winning right now. We had an opportunity to learn to compete, but we got derailed. We got completely bamboozled, or, and for
hmm
lack of better words, as it relates to these injuries. It took them apart. We talked about this to start the season. They were a heavily reliant team on pick and rolls. We said that coming in, and we talked about it. I remember I asked one of the first questions I asked Casey on the season. And it's, man, getting that media voice in there, something else in that press room. But one of the
yeah,
first questions I asked, and it was kind of proceeded from the show, was what's going on with the pick and rolls? We don't really see you doing it, and we only see you playing one big at a time. And he kind of divulged, yes, we want to run the pick and rolls. Yes, this is what our offense was based on. Yes, this helps Cade, and Cade is best in these types of situations. But we only got two bigs, the injuries. Marvin Bagley was gone. He was our best pick and roll big, and we're still teaching Jalen Duren things.
yeah, and
Right out the gate, their
it's just gonna
bread and
take
butter
time,
from a season ago was toast,
and
for
it's
pun intended.
yeah, it's just gonna take time. But again, there's don't take anything from this year. That's all I got. That's
Hey, that's the quote. Put that on a t-shirt, man. Detroit Pistons on the front, on the back. Don't take anything from this year, and put 22-23 on there.
yep.
That's how it goes. Rod, man, I appreciate you as always. I like this one. I like this one a lot because I think it addresses a lot of what we're going to want answered as the season is coming down to a close. I think the real questions right now, and we'll start getting into this in about a couple weeks, are the different prospects. As we get beyond those top three, there actually are some pretty interesting people that if the Pistons did, Danny Wood. So happen to fall. I
When
don't think
they
that the sky is falling.
when they get Vic, just leave it at that. When they get Vic.
There we go. There we go. Well, you know what, guys? Let me wrap this up because I'm actually about to go talk to Mr. Iafredi right now. So you're gonna be replaced soon here, buddy. But listen, guys, for Jeff Iafredi, Mr. Everything, my name is Brandon Dent, aka Detroit Kool-Aid, and this is the Woodward Pistons podcast. I wanted to save the drum roll for last today. Thank you as always, Rod. Hey, yo, shout out to the legend Detroit News, Rod Beard. Brother, I hope you have a blessed day.
You do the same, bro.
Thank you, man. Thank you.
All right.
As always. Till next time.